Welcome back to Faith, Family, and Politics. The girls have taken over once again. So excited to have all these lovely ladies here. But before we get into introductions and the actual show, don't forget to check out revolverbroadcasting.com. Got lots of fun stuff on there. All of our shows are there. The news page is there, so take a look at that. And the shop, which we got all kinds of fun shirts and things like Cat Lives Matter and Don't Tread on Me. Don't Chew on Me, sorry. It's based off of the Don't Tread on Me. And Mutts for Trump, because we're all, not just one thing, So if you like any of those, which they're kind of cute, some of them, go get you one. Holidays are coming up. They make good gifts. But anyways, aside from that, I hope you enjoy our show. I hope you enjoy all of our shows, as you are definitely watching them, because this is a great show to watch, and you like them. Actually press that like button, and you comment some more, because we love interacting with you. Lots of us on the crew will get back with you. And definitely share, because sharing is caring. Ooh, there, I did my magic fingers at the end because I go too fast. But anyways, moving on to who we have here. Subscribe. Thank you, Claire. Subscribe. There's a button. And then there's even a little notification bell that you can hit so you know when new things come out. Because you watch this one, obviously. But then, like I mentioned before, there's other shows, too. So you want to know when those come out. Especially those reaction videos are kind of funny sometimes. All right, now, I did it. I thought I said my name. Apparently, I didn't say my name. Y'all, I am Sarah Metcalfe-allen, and I'm your host. This is going to be a fun night. You know me because you've seen me on before, right? No. Wow. I'm losing it. It's going to be a good night. This is how it goes sometimes. Next to me, coming back for the second time, we've got Claire Reed. Thank you for coming, making time for us.
Well, yeah. Thank you for inviting me to the Girls' Day. Girls' Night, whatever. Girl Takeover. Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah, it's the Girls' Takeover. Lady Takeover. That's right. Woo! Girl power. Across from Claire is my mother, Yvonne Metcalfe.
Hi, how are you? Visit metcalfeindiana.com for information about my campaign. I'm running for District 89 in the Indiana House of Representatives. Woo. If you're in the Indy area.
What? Go, Mom! Thank you. And I tell you what, she's a threat because they throw in mud. So watch out. She's coming.
I'm coming.
And then our message bringer for tonight is Miss Kimberly Parkhurst.
Hey, glad to be here. Glad to be on the show and have a message prepared. Also, if you like what you hear, I often share my own thoughts in my own blog. You can follow it, read along on battlekimoftherepublic.com. So check it out if you like what you hear tonight, and feel free to get in contact with me on my website. Find me there.
All right. So excited. So what's your message called tonight?
So my message tonight is going to be called Self-Care is Not Selfish.
Ooh, I'm excited for this one.
I'm really excited too.
All right. Would you mind praying to bring us all in?
Yeah, let's do it. All right, God, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you that we can all come together and that we can talk about all of these different topics, from the message I have to stuff about family and stuff about politics. God, I'm thankful that we have a Christian life and a Christian faith and family and friends to be around to talk in these kind of things. I pray that as we discuss tonight, that we can bring glory to your name and just share the things that you want us to have to share. And in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right. So I'll start off. So I'm a teacher. So I'm going to start asking you guys a question, because I always start with a question for my kids. So when you hear the term self-care, what comes to mind? What do you think of?
Bath.
Bubble bath. That's what I wanted. What else? Getting your nails done? What else?
Comfort foods.
Comfort foods. Yeah. That was exactly the first thought that I thought of too when I thought of this. And while that's great and nice and awesome, I also want to talk about some of the harder stuff that you should do to take care of yourself too. So before I talk about any of that, I want to give you a definition to work with. I want to start by talking about the definition of selfish. And I found this really good definition, and I really like it a lot. And it says that selfish is lacking consideration for others, concerned chiefly with one's own personal profit or pleasure. I loved the distinction on chiefly. I did not add that. That was already in the definition. It was already underlined, and I was like, I like this. I don't feel like we talk enough about self-care in Christian circles. We talk about serving others. We talk about how we can help others, how we can help the community, but we never really talk about how we can help ourselves. And even Acts 20:35, Paul's talking to the early church, and he's like, oh, Jesus said it's more blessed to give than to receive. Mm-hmm. And that's true. But there comes a point and there comes a time when you got to take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. So as I was reading and as I was researching for this article, I came across a secular article from a psychology newspaper or whatever, that the author talked about different kinds of selfishness. And I didn't agree with everything that he said, but there were a few points that I was like, ooh, I like this. He had a quote in there where he said, when I behave selfishly, it's always good for me, but bad for others. And so he talked about 3 different kinds of selfishness, and bad selfishness, neutral selfishness, and good selfishness. I didn't really want to talk about the good selfishness because that was irrelevant to this. But he said bad selfishness was an outcome that you want that someone else doesn't want, but it comes at their expense. So it's not just a disagreement. He actually included an example of emotional manipulation, of trying to coerce or force somebody into doing something that they don't want to do because you want it. And I was like, yes, that's definitely selfish. That's bad. Mm-hmm. He talked about neutral selfishness, and I don't really think that this is selfish, but I wanted to highlight this because he talked about the things that you do that don't affect anybody else. The example he gave was brushing your teeth. Unless somebody's right up in your face, they're not going to be smelling.
I was going to say it could affect somebody.
It could. I'm not going to say it can't. Absolutely. But unless they're right up in your personal space, probably doesn't affect anybody else, right?
Unless they're distracted by if you got something that's visible.
Which is also valid. But most of the time, 98% of the time, doesn't really affect anybody else.
Okay.
The other example that I thought of was if you're in a plane, what does the flight attendant always tell you?
Put your own mask on first.
Put your own oxygen mask on before you help somebody else. Because you can't help them if you don't have anything.
If you're passing out.
Yeah. Right. And that's really what I wanted to talk about was you got to take care of yourself to be able to take care of others. Mm-hmm. They all know this, but for the audience that may not know it, I know I mentioned it earlier, I teach in an urban district. I'm a middle school teacher, and this year I'm teaching 6th grade. And they're a lot. It is not selfish if there's times where I need to take a mental health day because I just don't have it. And if a kid yells my name or calls my name, I'm going to snap and I'm going to do things I shouldn't. That's not selfish. Getting therapy or taking medication or getting diagnosed for a medical disease or anything, physical, mental, I don't think that's selfish because that's taking care of you. Mm-hmm. That's taking care of you so that you can help be a better person for others. So you can give, as Paul said. I like to use the analogy, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's literally what I was thinking.
Good.
They say that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hear that one a lot. You can't pour from an empty cup. Sometimes you got to take that time to refresh your own cup. A former coworker of mine would use poker chips. He was like, oh, these kids come in and they need different chips, right? They need safety. They need security. They need an education. They need XYZ. But you also have to make sure you as the bank have poker chips to give, mm-hmm. right? If there's no money in the bank, that's how we get to stock market crashes, and it's all bad from there.
Yeah.
All downhill. So that was kind of the idea as I was approaching going into this. And so as I was finding a story, I found a couple really good examples of this in the Bible. So we're going to be today in Luke chapter 8. I'm going to start in verse 40. We're going to go to the end of the chapter, but I'm going to pause because I got a couple things to talk about. And I'm reading in the English Standard Version. I find that version translates really well, so I like that one a lot. All right, now when Jesus returned, the crowd welcomed him, for they were all waiting for him. And there came a man named Jairus, who was a ruler of the synagogue. And falling at Jesus' feet, he implored him to come to his house, for he had an only daughter, about 12 years of age, and she was dying. As Jesus went, the people pressed around him. And there was a woman who had had a discharge of blood for 12 years. And though she had spent all her living on physicians, she could not be healed by anyone. She came up behind him and touched the fringe of his garment. And immediately her discharge of blood ceased. And Jesus said, "Who was it that touched me?" When all denied it, Peter said, "Master, the crowds surround you and are pressing in on you." But Jesus said, "Someone touched me, for I perceive that power has gone out from me." And when the woman saw that she was not hidden, she came trembling and falling down before him, declared in the presence of all the people why she had touched him and how she had been immediately healed. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." So we'll come back to the story of Jairus in a moment, but first I want to talk about this woman.
Ooh, which all of us as women, we
Right.
feel this.
Right. And I mean, also, like, they couldn't figure out exactly what it was. Some would say it was menstruation. Some translations said it was a hemorrhage. We didn't know. Regardless, what we do know about this woman, she's been bleeding for 12 years straight. My students are 11. Most of my students are 11. The oldest ones are 12. That's my kids' lives.
Oh my god.
That's my students' lifetime.
That's how old my daughter is.
Yeah. That's your daughter's entire lifetime. I just turned 26. That's almost half my life. That's almost half of my own life. I don't think we talk about just how long of a time that is.
Mm-hmm.
And so
She was desperate.
she was desperate. And we also know from Luke that she had spent all of her money on physicians. And nobody could tell her anything. We still have that today, right?
Oh my gosh, women health care is
Yeah, it is difficult.
Woo.
There are some things that are really hard to deal with. in that,
Absolutely. And,
the female.
and there are
issues we
still
have.
women. There are still
I got
women-
told yesterday, oh, that's abnormal, but it might just be normal for you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's really not, though. Yesterday.
We still, as women, we still do not get those diagnoses. And think 2,000 years ago, there was probably even less technology. I mean, there definitely was.
Yeah, definitely.
But she's like, I had 12 years. 12 years. She hears about Jesus through some way, shape, or form. And she's like, I got to try this. I've tried everything else. I'm desperate. Like you said, I'm desperate. And I also want to bring up the touch. Touch is so important in Jewish culture. Touch is very intentional for everybody. From Old Testament law, as I was researching, as I was studying this, like any woman that was bleeding was unclean.
Right. You're not supposed to touch anything.
They touch anything, and if you touch somebody else, they were now unclean.
Right.
I don't know about y'all, but if I was bleeding for 12 years, I wouldn't go out in public.
All right.
I'd stay in my house. I'd stay. I'd bake bread. I'd do whatever, but I would stay in my house. I would not-
bake bread.
bread. I'm sure she baked a lot of bread.
Yeah, like
If she was allowed to, that's another
that's
issue. too,
another
yeah.
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
probably only for herself, probably not for
Right.
anyone else.
I thought of that too. It was like, could she do anything productive
Cleansing.
that
you
would
have to
be
clean everything.
that would-
Yeah. I mean,
exactly
everything you touch.
and
Which we get some of our laws and rules about cleanliness here from that. But
yeah. But then she hears about Jesus, and because Jesus is still alive, I'm going to make an assumption. I don't know if it's accurate or not. I'm going to assume she lives in the land of Judea. So I'm sure that for the past 12 years, whether or not she was Jewish or Gentile, because there were some scholars that were disagreeing, so I couldn't get a definitive answer, but she's been told by everybody around her that she's unclean. Society's probably written her off. They probably don't care what happens to her. She was like, I've spent all my money, but Jesus. She risked it to the crowd, touched the barest fringe of his robe.
Oh, can I talk about that?
Go.
Do you know about it? Okay, so you know in the Jewish culture, they'd wear the robes that have the little tassels at the bottom.
Right.
And so that word, that fringe that he
the
touches,
tassel.
is like one thread off of the tassel.
Yeah.
So it's like that small is, you touch that and you've got the power of Jesus already.
But then also, like, to that point exactly, and I love that you brought that up, but like to that point exactly, she's probably thinking, if I touch that little bit, that's not going to make him unclean.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Minimal amount of touch. Again, she's had to think about this for 12 years.
I was just thinking that's how powerful Jesus is.
Both.
I want to steal your thunder there.
Both.
But
Both
no,
sides,
you
yeah.
bring your uncleanliness to Jesus and he wipes it away. Oh, sorry. He wipes it away.
Exactly. And so she believed in him so much that she was like, the thread of that tassel, maybe that can do something that these doctors can't. And it did. And then Jesus is like, whoa, who touched me? And they're all like, bro, you're in a crowd.
Yeah, I felt power come out from
Master,
me.
teacher, you're in a crowd. I call everybody bro. I'm sorry. I work with 11-year-olds. I call people bro. They're like, you're in a crowd. Everybody's touching you. And he's like, no. Somebody touched me intentionally.
Yeah.
Because I felt power go out of me.
Right, right.
And so then, like, she tells why, in front of everybody, she tells why she touched him. Can you imagine, like, almost the humiliation of that?
Yeah.
Of, Jesus, I've been bleeding for 12 years. Do you know, I can almost picture it, like the whole crowd just, like, parts around her. And they're like,
Unclean.
And then,
Right.
and then,
No kidding.
and then Jesus does the most unexpected thing, and he goes, be at peace. He blesses her.
He calls her daughter.
He calls her daughter, and he says, be at peace. We never hear from her again. We get 6 verses dedicated to her. We don't get her name. We have no idea what her name is. I don't think that was a selfish act. I think that was taking care of herself, but I don't think that was selfish. What about you? I was like, I don't...
No, we need help, and we need to go someplace where we can get help. And
Right.
of course, Jesus can help
The
with
help.
Yes.
Jesus is the help. Absolutely.
Right. He can help with.
Well, and if we go by your definition that it's at the expense of someone else, she wasn't putting anybody else down.
Or even with the second part, was she concerned with her own personal profit or pleasure? I think she was more after relief than she was pleasure.
Yeah.
Right.
Pleasure gives a sense of enjoyment. Relief is not suffering anymore.
Right. Right.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we're going to resume the story because I got more.
I love these stories.
While he was still speaking, someone from the ruler's house came and said, your daughter is dead. Do not trouble the teacher anymore. But Jesus, on hearing this, answered him, do not fear, only believe, and she will be well. And when he came to the house, he allowed no one to enter with him except Peter and John and James and the father and mother of the child. And all were weeping and mourning for her, but he said, do not weep, for she is not dead, but sleeping. And they laughed at him, knowing that she was dead. But taking her by the hand, he called, saying, child, arise. And her spirit returned, and she got up at once. And he directed that something should be given to her to eat. And her parents were amazed, but he charged them to tell no one what had happened. So let's talk about Jairus for a second. Jairus was the leader of the synagogue in Capernaum. Capernaum's the city, so once Jesus grew up, once he became an adult, he walked 40 miles from Nazareth to Capernaum. Capernaum's where he started his ministry. So Jairus is extremely familiar with Jesus' work. Jairus knows exactly what Jesus has done.
He might have had some of that wine.
He might have had some of that wine. Absolutely.
From the wedding.
From the wedding, from the first miracle, he might have. And what also struck me was interesting was when he approached Jesus, before we even met the woman with the blood, it was his only daughter. So women in the Roman Empire, women in Jewish culture did not have a lot of power, did not have a lot of rights. Yeah. Girls, even less. Mm-hmm. And kind of like with this woman, he could have written his daughter off. You know, as I was thinking about it, though, I thought about what if he and his wife had fertility issues. And so what if, they had a girl and he's over the moon because he's like, we had a child. Mm-hmm. We don't know. We don't know. But on the way, You know, he's probably telling Jesus to hurry along. Jesus stops, heals the woman with blood. And he's like, yeah, cool. But, you know, my daughter.
Yeah, so he might have thought she was selfish.
He might have. Absolutely. And you're going to, I love that. I'm going to hang on to that. I'm going to pin that conversation because I want to talk about that. But that's my like ending point.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're great. I'm so excited for that. Thank you. But, you know, then a messenger meets them. Sir, your daughter's dead. Your daughter's dead. You don't need to come. And Jesus is like, I'll still come. That's okay. And they laughed at Jesus.
Can you imagine laughing at Jesus?
He had just healed a
People are
woman.
idiots.
Literally. Gosh.
You're right, Claire.
Literally.
I mean, we look at it now, but I mean, if somebody came up to your house and literally said, "Oh, she's not dead," then what would you do?
Right.
Right?
Like,
I mean,
Even nowadays, I mean,
right. I mean, people.
it's a
still
miracle,
do it.
and that would still be a miracle.
You have to have faith in order to have the miracle.
But then obviously, as we see, Jesus heals the daughter. But what I thought was really interesting was that last verse of Jesus charged them not to tell what had happened.
Yeah, that is some weird.
And so I wanted to put that into the context of what I'm talking about with the self-care being selfish. Like, was that a selfish act? The logical answer is no, because Jesus never sinned and selfishness is a sin.
Okay.
And so as I was researching and thinking about it, I think I found an answer. Basically, Jesus was wanting them more to focus on the message from God and that he was the Son of God rather than, here are all the cool things that Jesus did. So, but I just thought it was very interesting that, you know, Jesus does these two miracles and like the first one's very public, very open, but the second one he's like, yeah, don't talk about this. Just tell them about God. Just tell them about who God is. Just tell them about what God's done. And so just putting that into that context of seeing, you know, the ways that we take care of ourselves is not selfish. As a personal example, I recently just got out of a relationship that turned abusive. I wish that person well. I wish them all the best. I'm going to still pray for them. But the way things worked out, I had to get a protective order filed for my own safety. Let me tell you, it was not pleasurable or profitable to relive everything that happened in front of a judge this week. Because that was literally this week. That wasn't selfish. That was me worried for my safety.
Right. No, and I know the person
You did.
probably did feel that it was selfish of you and that you were being a jerk. And
Oh, that's not a Christian thing to do.
you know, and oh no, I've had words with them,
I know you have.
and it's like, no, like you're protecting
I'm
yourself.
protecting myself.
Like that is always going to be number one.
And so that was what I want to bring up. Is you brought a great segue into that point of, to other people, it may look like the things that you do or the things that you say or the actions that you take are selfish, but truthfully, only you and God are the ones who can determine if something's selfish. And for the most part, unless it comes at the expense of other people, I would say that taking care of yourself, self-care, is not selfish. And so that was kind of the message that I wanted to bring today.
Yeah,
Well, that's good.
I think you've helped me think through a situation that I've been dealing with too.
This is good.
yeah. Oh, for sure.
I'll talk about it if you want to.
Yeah. Self-care, you know, we talked about just little examples, the little fun things like the bubble baths or the comfort foods, but there's other things you brought up, you know, taking medication or going to therapy. That is also self-care. You know, having people that you can talk to, friends and family, having pets, you know, I mean, emotional support animals are like a big deal right now, which sometimes it's take a little too far, but they can be very helpful. And even just a normal pet can be very comforting. Like just today, my poor kitty cat, we had to rush her to emergency vet and we didn't know if she was going to make it. And I was sitting there like, you were going to have tear-stained face Sarah. But praise the Lord, it wasn't as bad as we thought. And she's going to be okay. She's got to take some medicine. We got to change her diet. But, you know, just having her there, having that pet and just the cuddles and the whatever, like, it's
unconditional love. It's actually,
yeah.
and it is. You talked about touch a little bit too. You know, it's just there's something comforting about that. And And what I was going to say is one of the elementary school that I take some of the kids to, they have a dog there at the school for the teachers and the kids. So, it's particularly for the special needs kids, but everyone,
Oh, absolutely.
if they're having a bad day, it's like such a blessing to have the dog there.
Yeah, 100%.
So it can take many different forms, whether that's an animal, whether that's having to get a protective order, and then I don't know what are you bringing up, because you said you have a thought on this.
Oh, I was just saying that Kim was helping me work through just hearing it out loud. Was like, oh yeah, like I am doing good. No, so I don't know who's gonna watch it, so I can't do names or anything. But I had a friend who has gotten involved with DCS, got her kids taken from her. It's horrible. They should not have been taken, but that's not my call to make. And so she had asked me to bring the kids to her. And of course I wanted to do that. And my husband was like, no, we absolutely cannot do that. We'll get in trouble. And
Legal trouble's not worth it.
yeah. But I've been having a really hard time, because it feels selfish of me. It feels like I'm putting me and, oh no, I can't do that. Oh no, I have to do this. And, I have to spend time with my family. I can't take time to watch your kids for 9 hours a day. But no, I have to take care of myself. I cannot put myself into risk.
That's sort of like boundaries, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
boundaries.
you could absolutely
absolutely
put boundaries into this category.
Oh my goodness, yes.
100%.
But yeah, so I've known that I couldn't do it, but just hearing it said out loud, it was like, oh, okay. I'm not being selfish. I'm setting good, safe, legal boundaries.
That's right.
I've really struggled with feeling that I was being selfish.
And I've truthfully, I think that's part of why God laid that on my heart, was you got what you're going through, because you and I have had that conversation, what I've been going through, because September was long. And I have another friend of mine who I've been kind of talking some similar stuff with. And I think just putting them all together, that's why when Sarah approached me with this and she was like, hey, do you got a message? And I was like, hold on, give me a second. I need my life to stop spinning. But then I was like, no. I got something. Let's go. I was like, let's go. I got an idea.
And that
It's funny how that happens on this show. I should say repeatedly.
Yeah.
God knows what we need and when we need it.
Amen to that.
And he puts people in our paths, in our lives, connections for different things. It's so cool to see how God moves like that. And my brain stopped working there for a second.
Okay, guys, the other part of self-care that I want to make sure we talk about, just for me personally, is taking care of yourself, of your body, of your health.
Resting and eating.
Well, just doing your workouts and stuff, because I feel like, especially for us, we think about self-care and it's I'm gonna do my nails and but it's no, you gotta take care of yourself, your body, and that is part of honoring your body as the temple of God, and that is something that we have to do, and that's not something to be taken lightly.
Yes, absolutely, 100% agree with that.
And so that's a whole message that I'm going to do for my youth group kids. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's my only plug. My husband and I are the youth leaders at our church down in Rushville. We just started this summer, officially became the youth leaders.
Claire's wanted to do this since high school. So
looks
we're
excited.
proud of her and we're happy for her.
Awesome.
It can be hard, sometimes you don't know how to help yourself.
Yes.
And that's when being able to talk to other people, a couple times I've gone up to the altar and prayed, and one of the older ladies at my church, who's known me almost my whole life, has come up and prayed. She said the same thing to both times. And so she was at a ladies' meeting that I went to last night, and so I decided I was going to ask her about it. I was like, hey, you have said this to me a couple times now, and I don't get it. What are you seeing that I'm missing? And so she called me after everything because we couldn't talk while we were there.
That's so cool that you have that kind of relationship with the people in your church.
Well, yeah, and
love
you
that.
need those relationships. You need them. Need them. It's especially important. Like I said, she's an older woman, so it's good to have intergenerational
No, my
things.
pastor's wife talks about that you need a church mom.
Yeah. But she just, she told me, she's like, I don't even know. That's how I felt led to pray for you at the time. And then she's like, you know what? Actually, now that I'm thinking about it now, God's talking to me right now. He's telling me you need to share your story and your testimony. And that's what you need to be doing. And I was like, okay. So I'm going to be working on that. But I needed some help. She had said that and it touched me. And I kept thinking about it, but I didn't know what to do with it. So I needed some help. And not only was it that, it was specifically that I was holding myself back. And so your self-care, your self-help and all that is not just outward protection. It's also inward help, inward protection from your own self.
And I think, I love that you found somebody in church, but people who may not be as familiar with church or people who may not have grown up in a church, I want to be that person that church people are great, but therapy is also great.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
I was in therapy before all of the stuff with my ex-partner happened, and I'm still in therapy. She reminded me of a goal the other day, and I was like, yeah, I totally forgot that was my goal, because I was I came in last month with my appointment with her and was like, all right, we got to put any other goal on pause because my life's in shambles right now and you got to know why. And she was like, after I was done telling her everything, she was like, that's a lot. And I was like, yeah, I don't know what to do. And then the day after, she found a module for me. I'm the weirdo. When I go to therapy, I like a worksheet.
I do that.
Oh my gosh. It helps me so much.
Because then I feel like I'm accomplishing something.
Yes.
This is why Kim and I are friends.
But so she sent it by snail mail, to my house. It came from the service I use, addressed to me. I opened it up. It's this worksheet module with a small Post-it note, and she was like, Kimberly, take a look at this and let me know what you think at our next meeting. And it was dated the day after my appointment, and she cared so much because it was a module about self-compassion, which also kind of fits in this of being kind to yourself when you're going through tough things. And so she was like, let me know what you think at the next appointment, which I've been with her long enough to recognize, hey, do this by the next time I see you. And I was like, yes, ma'am, I got it. But it's that same kind of relationship. It's that same kind of I just kind of spewed everything to her and she was like, yeah, that's a lot. And then the next day she found something for me to use that she knew would help me get to a better point.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What kind of experience have you had?
Just having somebody to talk to is good. I know my doctor that we had for a long, long time always took that extra time to talk to us, not just about our physical health, but how we were doing.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
And that was good. Really good to see her all the time.
Yeah. And it's great to have, like I said, I have my church person or whatever, and she's known me my whole life, basically. And so there's one aspect of that, so she knows me. But then there's also the really good aspect of having an outside person, with a non-biased.
Yeah, you need both. They are not a replacement for each other.
Right.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. They work together.
Yeah. Sounds good. How are we looking on time there, Josh?
Yep, plenty of time.
All right. Well, what else do we want to talk about, guys?
And you can be that to someone else, and someone else can be that to you. We all need each other. I mean, that's
true.
At the end of the day, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we do things like this, where take what we've learned, and now we can share it with you. Now you can share it with your youth. And
Right.
Well, and that's part of discipling too. You pour into one person, and they pour into the next person down the line.
Somebody had also mentioned, I think it was you, mentioned boundaries. One of you had mentioned boundaries.
I think it was Yvonne.
I was like, my brain's only half working. I taught today, man. I had to teach 75.
Close
sixth
enough.
grade. I have 130 total Well, we have A-B schedules, so I don't see them every day, but today was the bigger classes, so today was 75.
Okay.
But boundaries, I think that's so important for self-care. And sometimes that boundaries can come in the form of family. People that you do talk to, people that you don't talk to. I was like, I thought of somebody for myself. I thought of somebody for Claire instantly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, there are people in my life that are or were biologically family that I didn't have a familial relationship with.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel like I know I'm not alone in that, at least in here, but in general, like, and then there are people that are some of my closest friends that I have no family ties to who feel like family.
Yep. Your
And so
found family.
Your found family, your chosen family. I think, but boundaries are so incredibly important. You can't.
Yeah, some people, like you said, this gentleman quote that you were with.
Right.
So if it's toxic like that, if it's not helpful, and they can't change, then you have to do the boundary,
Right.
which is what you did.
Yeah. And then along with that, like having enough self-respect to, if something like the way I was treated happens, standing up and being like, no, this is not okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
This is not something I
Yeah.
accept.
Oh,
No,
man,
I
that
had-
just made me
I
think
had to
of
have that
something.
conversation with one of my other friends when her partner was started to be that way, and I had a little baby girl, and I was like, absolutely not. You have to leave him if we're going to be friends, because my daughter is not going to grow up thinking that is okay
Absolutely.
for her aunt to be treated that way.
Absolutely.
And that was honestly kind of her wake up call, and like, oh, I really do need to leave him.
Ooh, yeah, that comes, talking about not being selfish, when victims of assault, sexual, physical,
Yeah.
domestic violence come out and people are like, why would you do that? You've ruined their lives. It's like, no, they ruined their lives.
They ruined their lives
and mine.
and mine. I now have to pick up the pieces.
And I'm not going to let them ruin anybody else's lives now.
Exactly.
That's,
That-
oh.
Sarah, you bring up. I feel like I've been talking a lot, but you bring up.
Well, you're the message bringer.
Yeah,
I
right,
know,
right,
but
right,
like,
right.
I'm
It's
telling
okay.
you to the next part. But that was Sarah. That was a thought that I had with all of the stuff that went down. Was I hate that this happened to me, but I'm like hoping and praying that I'm the last person that this happens to, from this person at least.
Right.
I hope that they are getting the help that they need. I hope that their life works out the way that God plans for it. I hope that, I don't wish bad things on them, but I've been so blessed with the amount of support that I've received through this from anybody and everybody coming out of the woodwork. People I didn't even think of were like, hey, I'm here if you need something. And, I grieve the end of the relationship, but I didn't grieve as much as I probably could have.
Oh, yeah.
Because I had so many people to catch me and support me. And I'm so blessed and so thankful. But yeah, I had that exact same thought this week of, I hope that I'm the last person this happens to, because I don't want this happening to anybody else, because I'm strong enough to handle it. Thank God I'm strong enough to handle it.
God's your strength.
God is my strength. Absolutely. My friends, my family, the people God has placed in my life, 100% my strength. But I'm like, I hope that I'm the last person that this happens to for that.
Such good stuff. What else we got? I haven't heard that much from you, Mom. Come on,
Yeah,
Yvonne.
no,
It's like I've been talking.
this is not a romantic relationship, but the first thing I really thought about with boundaries was Robin
Oh,
and having to deal with that, because she was very, I just couldn't. I tried to be kind to her and she didn't treat me well.
yeah, and boundaries don't have to be with romantic. It can be with family, just normal family. It can be with friends. It can
yeah,
be
I
with neighbors.
Oh, yeah, I
Like,
had to set it with friends.
Right. You can live peaceably with all men as much as you can.
yeah,
Kind of is where that comes from when you talk about the Bible. But we just stopped communicating with her because it was not helpful and she wasn't changing, and there was just no way to get around it. And I did the same thing. I pray for her. I hope everything works out well for her, but I can't keep putting myself in that position to be hurt again. So
Right. No, absolutely. And that, you know, like Claire mentioned, of like that, you might feel like you're struggling with being selfish for doing that. But at the end of the day,
And some people might say that too. Yeah.
but at the end of the day,
not.
it's between you and God. And, you know, you do have to do what's best for you as well.
Yeah. You know, last year, so it was about a year ago, because it was September last year, I went to a women's conference with my mother-in-law. Well, Anna went one with you, too.
I was like, we
that
also
was, yeah, I had like 2 women's conferences within the month. It was great. It was a great time in my life. But seriously, my verse that was like randomly prayed for, randomly given to me, and it was, I forget the reference, I'm sorry, but it was that you have to do what will get you peace.
Yes.
But it didn't stop there. It wasn't just your peace. It was also the edification of others.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, like, you know, I can do that. I can make these both work.
Yeah.
And, you know, when this person is edified, that gives me peace too, knowing that I've helped them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, your thing that could be self-care could be going and volunteering.
Yeah.
So you're physically working, but it's your self-care because you are helping somebody else.
And really, you get a blessing from that. Like, like
absolutely.
you just said a little bit ago, like Crystal does that for her. We talked about depression on one of the episodes, and she was talking about how that helped her to not be depressed anymore, to feel
Just to feel like you're doing something.
yes, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's so many great, I'm going to go ahead and plug here, so many great ways and places that you can volunteer. There are so many organizations, like, you know, if you like animals and pets, then look at your local shelters and humane societies and whatever. If you want to help children, then there's lots of children's programs.
my goodness.
You know, there's Christmas is coming up, you know, Toys for Tots or Angel Tree Kids or,
Shoebox.
you know,
Yeah,
shoe
the Operation
boxes.
Christmas Child,
Like, veterans, there's things for veterans. There's something, if you want to help somebody and you have a heart for something, there is a ministry for it.
Yeah.
So go volunteer.
Well, you guys, so I know you guys are all like up here in Indy, but down where I live in Rushville, we're going to have a meeting on Tuesday talking about bringing a Hope Center to Rushville.
Okay.
There's one in Connorsville,
Okay.
which is like half an hour away. And so we are fundraising.
The Hope
for that.
Center, like the one on Brookville Road.
It's like a crisis pregnancy center.
Okay.
Oh,
Rad,
okay, that's
rad,
different. Okay.
Yeah. So
That's
I'm really
great.
excited.
Well, so I
Yes.
love that you brought that up. So I'm in martial arts, and part of like getting your black belt requirement is my instructor wants you to go volunteer because it's like
to
it's
get your black belt.
yeah, it was a black belt requirement to get my black belt. I had to be volunteering somewhere. So yes, volunteering so important. And even if you don't like any of those things that Sarah mentioned, I volunteer when I can at Second Helpings downtown. I caught food. I literally just chop food for like 4 hours straight. It's a blast. We get to talk about everything. We talk about our lives. Sometimes they're like my unpaid therapist because they're just good people. But then I had to give a presentation when I got my black belt of what I was doing, why it mattered, how it was helping the community. But a friend of mine actually volunteers at the Hope Center on Brookville Road.
Okay.
So like that's her ministry. That's her area.
Okay, now that one is like for human trafficking.
Yes.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So my pastor's wife, when she first went to the fundraiser, she thought that's what it was for.
Oh,
And she was like, oh, human trafficking. Oh, I care about that. And then she got there and it was like a crisis pregnancy center. And she was like, oh, well, I care about that too.
Absolutely.
Oh my
Well,
goodness.
there's a lot of opportunities right now too because of the flooding and all that, which we're going to talk
Oh,
about
absolutely.
later,
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I thought
yes.
that's what you were
Natural
gonna plug.
disasters and
and
Ooh.
tornadoes and stuff that happen here in Indiana.
oh
pretty
yeah,
frequently.
absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, we had that was earlier this year, right? Tornadoes down in Johnson County, and
Yeah.
the
Oh,
people
in
that I
Whiteland.
worked with, it affected them. My sister-in-law, it affected her. Like, it's all around you, like a little bit, and nothing crazy, like power out. I think for a little bit, but anyways, you know, so you can find something
If you really
anywhere.
want to get involved, there's so many opportunities in most areas.
Oh, absolutely. And let me tell you what, something my pastor encourages, if that opportunity, if that ministry isn't there, start it.
Yep, that's what we're trying to do with the Hope Center.
Right.
Then you do it. If you have that and you want to do it, then just go do it. Like, because trust me, there's going to be other people that want to come and help you do it.
Yeah.
You just got to do it. And that's going to help you
Hi, Journey.
helping others, because it all wraps around, the Bible talks about rest and peace, and you need that. But then it also talks about that it's better to give than to receive.
Right.
Faith without works is dead. Like,
Yeah, I mean, Jesus even in talking about that, drawing back, you can overdo in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to take that time separately apart, and you need to have that time for prayer and Bible study and so forth, and just quiet time, I think, especially with children. You have to take those few minutes to and it's okay. And it's not selfish. It's going to help you to be better.
Right. Agreed.
all right, I am going to go ahead and move us along here. This has been
hold on.
some
Let me say one more
awesome.
thing. Let me
Go
say
ahead
one
while
thing.
I'm
One
doing
thing.
this.
Okay, so you're talking about you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, and I just did this with my youth group kids last Sunday, so we gotta say it. We did all of Psalms 23.
Yeah.
And we talked about
Yes.
you anoint my head with oil, and then my cup runneth over.
Ooh, yeah.
So just want to make sure we throw that out there that you're filling up your cup by being there with God and getting your anointing. And you can't just fill up your cup with like worldly self-care.
I love that distinction of you anoint me and then I overflow. I think of it, this is a really weird analogy that my brain just went to. I think I'm hungry. Chocolate fountain.
Oh,
yeah, that's
Yeah. Your cup runneth over.
Right. Like,
That's
if
nice.
the fountain's empty, nothing's going to come out,
Yeah, you
like,
can
and then
hold your
we're all
cup
going
up.
to be sad.
but you got to pour stuff in for it to do the things.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's where my brain went. I'm sorry.
Man, now I want some chocolate. Man, to segue, woohoo! So many things can affect our mental health and how we're feeling. Being hungry, that's why the term hangry is a thing.
Right.
Another thing that can
You're
affect
not acting
us,
like yourself, Snickers.
Snickers.
yeah, not a sponsor.
Sorry.
Boy, that'd be awesome one day. We'll take it.
It's got to be the peanut butter ones, though.
I do like the peanut butter ones. Okay.
She
Anyways,
only-
so many things.
Now we're all hungry. Now we're all hungry.
Rabbit. Okay.
Right.
Or squirrel. Sorry.
Yeah, it's squirrels, not rabbit.
What just can't. Oh no! I just been seeing too many rabbits lately.
I mean, my dog would go for a rabbit.
I know, that's what I was
Either
saying.
way.
I don't think it matters.
Either way.
To be fair, I think my cat killed something at one point. Like I was out in the yard with him at one day, and he was like, all of a sudden there was some loud squeaking, and I was like, he had something in his mouth, and I was like, I'm just gonna stay over here in my area. He'll come to me when he's ready.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so all kinds of things that affect our mental health, including politics. There is this article from the American Psychological Association that politics seep into daily life, negatively affecting mental health. So, the stress of following daily political news can negatively affect people's mental health and well-being, but disengaging has ramifications too, according to research published by the American Psychological Association. There are strategies that can help people manage those negative emotions, such as distracting oneself from political news, but those same strategies also reduce people's drive to act on political causes they care about, the research found. So it's like, you got to balance.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't
you can
stress
definitely
yourself
get burnt out with it. There's so much information every day that
Yeah. When it comes to politics, there can be a trade-off between feeling good and doing good, said Brett Q. Ford, PhD, an assistant professor of psychology at the University of Toronto. Protecting oneself from the stress of politics might help promote well-being, but it also comes at a cost to staying engaged and active in democracy. The research was published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. Previous research and polling data have found that politics can be a major stressor in people's lives, according to the researchers. However, most of that research has focused on major political events, such as presidential elections. Ford and her colleagues wanted to explore the emotional and mental health effects of everyday political news and how people use different strategies to manage those negative emotions, which we're in a big political season right now with the presidential, very heated, high, strung, I'm just going to call it high strung, but even just the everyday. Politics isn't just something that affects people every 4 years during election season. It seems to seep into daily life, but we just don't know much about the day-to-day impact politics might have. To learn more, she and her colleagues began by asking a politically diverse sample of 198 Americans to answer a series of questions each night for 2 weeks about the political event they thought about most that day, the emotions they felt in response, how they managed those emotions, their general psychological and physical well-being that day, and how motivated they felt to engage in political action. Overall, the researchers found that thinking about daily political events evoked negative emotions in participants, even though the survey question had not asked participants to think of negative political events. Participants who experienced more politics-related negative emotions reported worse day-to-day psychological and physical health, both, on average, because they are totally connected.
They absolutely are.
But they also reported greater motivation to act on political causes by doing such things as volunteering or donating money to political campaigns. The survey also asked participants about several strategies they might have used to manage their negative emotions, including distracting themselves from the news and cognitive reappraisal, or reframing how they thought about a news event to make it seem less negative. Participants who successfully used these strategies to manage their negative emotions reported better daily well-being, but also less motivation to take political action. So there's definitely, it seems like a trade-off for that. Next, the researchers replicated these results over 3 weeks with a larger group of 811 participants that included not only Democrats and Republicans, but also people affiliated with a different political party or no party. So that is a good study, that you're not just taking from one group of people and you're making it larger. So good job. Right. In a second set of experiments, Ford and her colleagues asked participants to watch political news clips from the highest rated liberal and conservative leaning news shows, rather than simply asking them to report on politics they had encountered. In these experiments, participants watched a clip from either the Rachel Maddow show for liberal participants or Tucker Carlson Tonight for conservative participants. In a first experiment, the researchers found that participants who watched the political clip experienced more negative emotions than those who watched a neutral, non-political news clip and reported more motivation to volunteer for political causes or take other political action. The effect held true for participants across political parties. So it didn't matter who you were, what your political leanings or whatever. When you watched it, you had more negative feelings, but you also seemed more motivated to do something about it. In a final experiment, the researchers asked participants to try out several different emotion regulation strategies as they watched the clips: distraction, cognitive reappraisal, or acceptance of their negative feelings. Replicating the results from the diary studies, the researchers found two of the strategies, distraction and cognitive reappraisal, consistently reduced participants' negative emotions, which in turn predicted better well-being, but indirectly reduced the likelihood that they would want to take political action. So again, they really found that balance. Balance is key. Overall, the results suggest that politics have a significant daily effect on many Americans' health and well-being. Modern politics, its daily controversies, incivility, and ineptitude puts a regular emotional burden on Americans, said Matthew Feinberg, PhD, a co-author of the paper and professor of organizational behavior at the Rotman School of Management at the University of Toronto. This has important implications, particularly for activists who wish to get people involved in advocating for political causes without harming their mental health. Hopefully they are thinking about that. They need to be thinking about that. That
don't terrorize your supporters.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So Ford says, in a way, this is a trade-off between individual wellness and collective wellness. We're working toward identifying strategies that people can use to protect their own well-being without coming with cost to the broader collective. This paper begins to address this by studying emotional acceptance, a strategy that is linked with greater well-being for individuals in daily life. and which doesn't seem to come with consistent cost to collective action. It is important that people have a variety of tools they can use to manage the chronic stress of day-to-day politics while also maintaining the motivation to engage with politics when needed. Excuse me. Further research should examine the effects of politics on well-being in different countries, the researchers suggest. The U.S. faces high levels of political polarization in a largely two-party system, and a media often revolving around inciting moral outrage. Woo, boy, they called that out. It would be interesting to see the extent to which daily politics would affect citizens in other countries that are less polarized or with different political systems. So it looks like they have a plan moving forward, which I would be interested to see what they found, how politics affect their daily life. But it is good to have this like scientific study, this data that proves that politics are stressful in our everyday life.
You need a study.
You know, we know it.
We like data. Data is nice.
Yeah, we know it personally, you know, anecdotally or however you want to say it, but there's numbers there.
Right.
There's proof.
Right, and I think that's interesting. I think about the way that I handle it, and you know, if I get very, very stressed out or overwhelmed with it, the biggest thing really that helps me is my Christian faith, because I know that God's going to take care of everything in the end, and that's a constant reminder. Although I am concerned about many things going on right now, and I think when you're talking about the study too, I'm not sure it's accurate, because the times that we are in right now, it is dangerous for our country.
This article was done January 13th of 2023. So this was just last year.
Right. So it is a dangerous time right now. I mean, would you do a study in the middle of the Civil War? You know, it's sort of at that point. It's very
well, and I tell you what,
intense
your negative
right now.
Emotions about how politics are going are what led you to become active and are now running for state representative.
Exactly.
So it kind of just
And
proves
I'm
the study
involved
some.
in a lot of other ways, right? Yeah. And that, I mean, honestly, that's the only way I can keep my sanity, is knowing that God is in control at the end of the day.
Oh, absolutely.
But still wanting to make a difference, because as I've talked about with my campaign and everything, people died for our freedom, and we're losing our freedoms, and it seems like nobody cares. But that's a good point, and that's why some people don't care, because there's so much pressure and so much emotion associated with it, I guess, that it's easier to just shut it off than to do something about it.
Yeah. Well, and again, that comes back to balance. We don't want to completely ignore it. You know, don't completely distract ourselves from it, completely reappraise it or whatever. We need to be motivated to take some action, but we just can't let it affect us so negatively that like it physically hurts us.
Right.
Yeah, that's too much. So did it say that it only invoked negative emotions?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it said.
That
she said.
surprised me.
And it said that it wasn't even just negative political things. It was anything political.
You know what? I can't say. Okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say also, like, I think we have to take into consideration the information overload that we live in now.
Mm-hmm.
With the way technology is, we have the world literally at our fingertips, right? Our smartphones, like we have so much information, and it's just a lot. And so we feel overwhelmed and overstimulated, and like, you know, and these especially this like super biased either way, like those super biased media outlets are going to report only the negative, you know? And so I thought that was really interesting that like they're only, oh, this happened and this happened and this happened, which encouraged people to take more action. So I thought that was really cool, especially because I teach history. So I'm like, yes, take more action, be democratic, do all those things. But, you know, because they're so like, wow, this world is terrible and this country is going down from either side, regardless of your political leaning. You know, they think, oh, this party's doing such bad things, I need to help and I need to change. So, like, you got that cool trade-off to be more involved, but, like, I don't feel like either side most of the time is offering a lot of solution.
Okay, now I would disagree with that, because I think with Trump's, with his slogan, "Make America Great Again,"
But
And that's a positive thing. You know, make America proud again, make America safe again. Those are all good things. Make manufacturing come back again. He has a lot of plans. He has a lot of positive things that he's putting forward and saying, look, we can do this and it'll be better. You know, he has a positive view on that, but he has a negative view of the other side. And so he sometimes, or not just him, but other, you know, people will magnify the negative things on the other side instead of focusing more on the things he is actually planning on doing.
And that's completely my issue. Is I am so tired of both parties throwing mud rather than showing me your policies, showing me what you believe. I'm a lot more prone to vote for somebody because I kind of go back and forth on some different issues and stuff. So I'm a lot more prone to vote for somebody if I know what you're standing for. The Indiana State Teachers Association, I'm part of the teachers union. They did an interview with all of the Republican, I think they're the mayor or governor candidates when there was like the 6 of them. They did an interview on all of their stances on education. And I loved reading all of that because then I was able to be like, this is the person I align the most with. I want to know the solutions you have and I want to know what you're doing. And so I think by showing these super opinionated, again, liberal or conservative, showing those super opinionated, they're really only going to throw that smear campaign. They're only going to throw that mud. So if we're seeing more of the solutions offered from preferably a non-biased party, I think that could bring a lot of change.
Yeah.
And so I've tried to do my campaign that way as well, you know, offer solutions and think about those things as I'm trying to do this, you know, jumping right into it.
Yeah.
And especially with the education thing, quality education. Well, what is that? So the kids know how to read and write and do arithmetic by the end of their school years. And they know their American history, you know, based on I believe on the 1776 project, which you can find more information on that from 1776projectpack.com.
Mm-hmm.
But and also giving parents the right to say no, you know, and they need to be involved. You talked about them being involved. They need to be able, and they don't need to be taught sexual content and gender confusion with young children. There's no reason for that. And school choice is important because different kids learn in different ways and they need different things. And so, you know, that's another part of that too. And I don't know where you stand on that, but
Yeah.
I just think it makes it better. Competition makes it better. So, you know, if you want the kids to go to your school, then you should have something better to offer them.
Yeah. What were you going to say? I know you were.
Okay, I just want to say that I was surprised that it only invoked negative emotions.
That is,
Because like I would watch a news where something good happens and I'm excited about it.
I was going to say, I would disagree because I do feel good when I hear Trump speak at the rallies. It's not always negative. So
I guess it depends on who you are. I think culturally and socially, we have been taught that politics is a no-go. Like, you don't talk about faith or politics when you're like in big settings, you
or
know?
religion.
that is
all the things that this
absolutely
podcast
something
is.
that needs to change. Yeah.
I know. And I know. I mean, that's why we
need
do
to
this
talk about that,
podcast.
right, exactly.
But
the
it
whole
is-
name of the podcast.
It
right?
is definitely ingrained in our society. So automatically when somebody says politics,
It's a
even for
negative.
me,
It's like, oh,
it's a
no.
negative thing.
Yeah.
You know, and I am, you know, talking about it and I research things and I like certain people and don't like certain people and whatever.
Right.
But just that word politics automatically makes me think negatively. So I think that's where some of that comes from.
It's true. Yeah.
No,
I
but
would agree.
like 2 years ago when Roe versus Wade got switched,
Overturned.
I was so excited.
Oh, right? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Boy, talk about a polarizing issue, but
I was so excited. And then Indiana didn't do very much, and then it was all the excitement was gone. But
Well, no, we passed a law that it
yeah, and then the
abortion
judge
is almost
then the
illegal.
judge shot it down.
No,
Judge
no,
said you
it's
can't do that.
still no, it's still there.
When did
You
that
can't
happen?
you can't you can't do an abortion in Indiana except for the 3 things: incest, rape, and life of the mother. That's
Which
how it is
life
in
of the mother
Indiana.
is no longer abortion.
Which
it's
is no longer
life-saving
abortion.
procedure.
Exactly. And that's why that's a whole nother issue. I am pro-life completely because the Constitution tells us we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Life comes first for a reason. If you don't have life, you can't have liberty, you can't have the pursuit of happiness.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Bible tells us we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Science has caught up to the Bible, where they know that 2 cells come together, give you 23 chromosomes with everything about you when that first connection happens, and it's the miracle of life.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be a penguin, it's going to be a child. So you cannot take the life of the child without having consequences.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of people didn't like the bill. People didn't like it because they thought it was too strict, and people didn't like it because they thought it wasn't strict enough.
Mm-hmm.
But I personally really liked it. Really liked how it was, because it very clearly made it that if it was ectopic, that does not count. That you have to be able to do that. And miscarriage care is not going to count. And I have had big, major debates with people where they think that when abortion is outlawed, that then they can't get their miscarriage taken care of and they're going to die of sepsis. And I'm like, no. I was at the State House. That is not the way the bill is written.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's still
part of it is you don't have enough information. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it gave them like a 6-week window. So I felt like for the people that were minors, they had like a little bit of extra time. And I mean, it's terrible, but I think it's good that the option is there, just so that they cannot be so mad about it and so like, no, we can't have this bill at all.
Yeah.
It was good to appease everyone.
Yeah. The value of life is not understood anymore in our society in many ways. One thing that does help bring the focus back to the value of life is when big natural disasters happen, which brings us to our next article from Fox News talking about Hurricane Helene. So a North Carolina family is mourning the loss of 11 loved ones in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, as residents and officials in the western North Carolina and eastern Tennessee areas continue to recover bodies nearly 2 weeks after Helene devastated the region.
Gosh.
The Craig family, which lives in an area known as Craigtown, in Fairview, a suburb of Asheville, lost 11 members to a mudslide that happened without warning by unprecedented rains when the worst of Helene struck in the early morning hours of September 27th, according to a GoFundMe for the family titled Support the Craig Family After Tragic Loss. I'm going to pause there. When I first read this, and I was like, a mudslide? I thought we were talking about a hurricane. But a hurricane brings so much more than
so much rain.
Than just the rain, than just the wind. It causes mudslides. It causes tornadoes. Like we're seeing that from Milton or whatever it's called now. Yeah, like it's not just the one thing. It causes so many other things. Mm-hmm. But the GoFundMe described the Craig family as pillars of the community. A resident close to the Craigs told Fox News Digital the 11 deceased family members lived in several houses beside each other, which the mudslide crushed when it came down the slope of the mountain near their homes. Any and all donations will be greatly appreciated by the entire family. It will go towards rebuilding homes, funeral arrangements, medical expenses, and unemployment during the grieving process, etc. A description for the GoFundMe page states, Tony Garrison, a father of 2 and a firefighter with the Fairview Fire Department and Garin Creek Fire Department, died trying to save people from the mudslides. Some victims who were in the area during the devastation are still missing. In Green Mountain, about an hour north of Fairview on the other side of the Pigsca Forest, another family is mourning the loss of 2 young boys and their parents, who also died September 27th. Allison Wisely and her 2 sons, 9-year-old Felix and 7-year-old Lucas, were found dead after they attempted to leave their home that Friday, according to a GoFundMe page titled Honoring Allison, Knox, Felix, and Lucas. Wisely's fiance, Knox Petrucci, has yet to be recovered. And I just can't imagine in the toll that is taking on you
Yeah.
to have lost family or to have lost your home. For the ones, they're still missing.
Right, literally lost. Like they're
Oh
gone.
my
We
gosh.
don't know where
And
they
that
are.
not knowing is the worst.
Yeah, it
Oh,
is.
goodness. Well, so for my family, between me and Kyle, in the month of September, we had 3 like elderly people die, plus my dog. So it was rough. It was a rough month. But I can't imagine 11 at once. That's so many.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And
Goodness. I guess that's what happens when you live that close together, I guess.
it can, yeah.
Well, I worry about that, like for me and Cameron, for our work and stuff.
Yeah. Continuing on, at around noon on Friday during the storm, they attempted to flee their home by car. And that's something, when I read that, I was like, man, they shouldn't have done that. And that's why it's really important to listen to your National Weather Service and emergency response people when they give you instructions.
Because when did it hit landfall?
Oh,
Did it hit landfall that day, or
I don't remember exactly.
That's fine.
I don't know for sure either because it hit in Florida and then traveled up.
Right.
I'm not
But I
sure
was
when
like,
it got there.
because I don't know, this is almost sounds like, to go off your point, like it was that like it's coming now and like
Yeah.
They don't know.
I want
They
to
didn't
say it
have
was
time. Yeah.
Friday.
I think that is on leadership to know and to make sure people are prepared too.
That's a big part of it. Definitely
Right,
to
because-
give the proper warning.
Right, because like the mayor in Tampa said, leave or you will die. I mean, that is just, it was that desperate.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So, I mean, and they had to make it very clear for people because a lot of people don't want to, obviously you don't want to leave, especially if you've been through it 10 times or something in Florida.
Yeah, no,
it's no
my
big
cousins
deal,
out there in Florida, they're just like, oh, nope, no big deal.
Just another hurricane.
We have our generator. It's fine.
Yeah.
And I mean, thankfully they have always been fine, but it's scary for us.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that they lived through it and they have a generator, they have plans for that kind of thing.
Right,
So at
right.
least there's some preparation,
Right.
Whereas for this poor family, they tried to leave, their car started to float, so they tried to go back to the house and then they got swept away.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, you don't expect that in where are they? North
And
Carolina.
that one I think is Tennessee.
North Carolina.
Or is that one North Carolina?
That one was North
There's
Carolina.
they talk about both places in here,
Yeah,
so
but
it's like
you don't expect that to happen. You don't
Right.
expect to need to be prepared for that.
right. So yeah, so it's just a tragedy, But so far, Allie, Felix, and Lucas's bodies have been recovered. The search is still on for Knox, and several agencies are working tirelessly to find him so that he can be put to rest with his family.
Man.
More than 230 people died during Helene as of Wednesday, though the death toll is expected to grow as search and rescue efforts continue.
Oh yeah, they gotta find the missing people. Hopefully they find some people alive.
That would be awesome, for sure. Yeah. More than 3,200 people in North Carolina have been rescued in the aftermath. So there have been a lot of people rescued. So that's according to the Federal Emergency Management Agency. But an unknown number of people still remain missing in the southern Appalachia region. On a Facebook page titled Hurricane Helene Safety Check-In, hundreds of people from around the country have been posting photos and description of their loved ones, asking if locals have seen them, as cell phone service and Wi-Fi in the area remains scarce, making it difficult, if not impossible, for some survivors, especially those in mountainous regions, to check in with friends and family.
Right.
So North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services told Fox News Digital in a statement that officials are working cooperatively with FEMA to respond to fatalities related to Hurricane Helene in North Carolina, ensuring the right disaster procedures and plans are in place. Recovery efforts remain focused on getting help and support to people who need it, including assistance when a family member or loved one has died. Anyone seeking assistance locating a loved one who is missing or unaccounted for can call 211. Every death related to a hurricane is a tragedy. If a family or individual is seeking assistance with a loved one who has died, emergency responders are available in every impacted county to provide help and ensure their loved one is treated with the dignity and respect they deserve. Black Mountain Police Chief Steve Parker told Fox News Digital search and rescue efforts will continue in the western North Carolina mountain town until they try to locate every last person. So people, we talked about volunteering earlier, and we even mentioned the fact that there's a big opportunity right now. You know, a lot of organizations are down there, you know, the Red Cross, the Salvation Army, you know,
Samaritan's Purse.
Samaritan's Purse.
Oh, yeah, Samaritan's Purse, too.
And they will be down there, you know, they're part of the search and rescue. They're
The
part
National
of,
Guard is down there too.
and yeah, which is good.
Convoy of Hope.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So all these places you can go and help that way. You can give money. You know, there's so many ways that we can help these families.
We're sending supplies down there. The church is sending supplies down there. They're packing up a truck tomorrow to send things down there.
Yeah, one of the churches in Rushville was taking like water and stuff. Our church did water.
So I think that's awesome that, you know, and the church specifically, yes, we need to step up and
Yeah.
help because they are without hope. So many of them, because they have lost
So much.
so much that I just can't imagine that without God.
Yeah.
I would not want to be alive either if I didn't have God. Like, and I lost everything. How am I going to rebuild this? What am I going to get back? Like, my life's never going to be the same, you know?
And
like,
you can't go, I'll go stay at my mom's house until everything's back together because your mom's house got smashed too.
Yep.
Right.
So,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
So I just can't imagine being in that situation without God.
Yeah. Right.
So Christians, step up. Churches, step up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Step up.
For real.
Be the church. Be God's love, his hands, his feet, his mouth.
And
Now.
there's been a lot of that going on. I mean, it seems that we do that. We do step up.
Yeah.
And you see the okay, I'm going to say it. I'm sorry, it's negative. The government doesn't do it well, but people, private companies and neighbors do it well. The church does it well. And so that's what we really need in times like that.
Yeah. So I am thankful for the ones who are stepping up and doing it and just continue to do so. And not just until the debris is taken away either. Like, there's going to need to
it's gonna
be
be so
help
much more.
for years, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
but it's just a lot to think about and a lot to consider. And how can we help? How can authorities help? How can politicians help? You know, how does it all connect? How, you know?
Like there are some politicians that are just, as a member of their community, going to help.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, here's my boat, here's my chainsaws, let's go
Yeah.
cut down some trees and rescue some people or whatever we need to do, you know.
I tell you what, I'd be more inclined to vote for someone like that, which brings me to our final article. Here in Indiana, voting has begun. Early voting began on Tuesday.
It did.
So from Fox 59, our local Fox channel, here's what you need to know. As the online voter registration deadline approaches, county clerks' offices across Indiana are gearing up to open their doors to registered voters hoping to cast their ballots early. They need to remember to bring their ID with them, Marion County Clerk Sweeney Bell said. If they are a newly registered voter, we ask that they bring a piece of mail. In Marion County, only one vote center will open on Tuesday. However, the county plans to open 8 more early voting satellite locations on Saturday, October 26th. In the meantime, Clerk Sweeney Bell said her office is working on an online tool that will allow voters to see what wait times look like across all vote centers in real time, which is a nice tool. So you can,
Cool.
hey, that one's really busy. Let's go to this one.
Yeah.
Voters can go to any one of the vote centers that's open either for early voting or on Election Day, Clerk Sweeney Bell said. According to the Indiana Bar Foundation, voters should check with their county to see what polling places are available and where exactly they can go. So some counties have it where you can go to any of the voting centers regardless of where you live, and for some of them, you really need to go to the precinct of where you register within that particular county. Chuck Dunlap, the president and CEO of the Indiana Bar Foundation, told us.
Great. I've met Chuck Dunlap. I work, so I teach history, but I have also worked with some civic education. We work very closely with the Indiana Bar Foundation. Chuck Dunlap's a really cool guy. But yes, I'm going to put a plug. I'm going to pause you right there. Please go vote. I don't necessarily care as much who you vote for. Like, that's important. But being involved in the democratic process, voting is so important. And it's easy to register nowadays. So, like, just go vote. Just do it. Just go vote.
Can I just add one thing to that? Because of the way that our country is set up, we are we are the leaders. It's we the people.
Yes.
We really have that backwards. We think we vote for our leaders. No, we are the leaders.
Yes.
And they are representing us. And so we have to take that responsibility seriously. It is a responsibility and a privilege. So please.
And I personally don't want to
please
hear you
do
complain if you don't vote.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because you didn't try to help it.
Right. But guys, the early voting is so nice. 'Cause if you try to vote on voting day and like you don't get off work for it, which is stupid, first of all.
Depends on where you work.
They're supposed to let you. Yeah, they're
I
supposed to let
I
you.
never have.
Yeah,
at
but
all
public-
of my multiple jobs. That
Public
I've had.
schools are usually polling places. So I get off work.
Oh, that is nice.
I was like, hold on.
I remember one year it was election day actually, and I was working and I got fired that day.
Oh, gosh.
And I was like, well, I guess I have time to go vote now. And so I was like in the line to vote on the phone, telling my friends how I got fired and how mad I was. It was really stupid. We don't have to get into that.
But anyway, voting, the Indiana Bar Foundation's great. Voting's
Yes,
important.
voting is important.
So last year for my daughter's preschool for Halloween, they did like a whole tour of like the city square. And so we went into like the courthouse building. And so we were there with the preschool class, and then they had a little sign, oh, you can early vote. And I was like, oh, well, I'm here. Let's go ahead and do it right now.
Now,
And-
note on that, more on that actually. According to Clerk Sweeney Bell, if voters want to mail in their absentee ballot, they should make sure they qualify for one ahead of time. So same thing for like early voting and stuff. Make sure you qualify for it. So not everyone is. This is more for absentee, but
I was like,
definitely,
I think this is more for absentee.
definitely just make sure.
Yeah, they didn't have any requirement. I mean, you might have had to have your ID.
I hope you have your ID. That's
I don't remember. It
So
was a year
important.
ago.
Needs to be nationwide.
Just vote.
There's a lot of
Right.
problems going on right now.
Yeah, so just make sure that you know who you want to vote for. Don't vote.
right.
And then a week later, then find out something and like, oh, I wish I would have voted for that person instead.
Yeah.
Do your research before you
research.
go in.
Yeah.
No, go vote. You talked about wanting to make a difference, right? Wanting to make that change with, whatever it is. But voting is a way to make the change. Yvonne, you were right. It is we the people. The Constitution is directly geared towards, yes, it's geared towards the power that the government has, but we are the ones who help put the government in the power. And we as the people do have a lot of power. Please go vote.
Yes.
I'll stand on the soapbox all day. Please go vote.
Vote.
If you're in Indiana, it is called there's a website like indianavoterregistration.com. You can put in your name, check your voter status. It's really simple. Indiana's done a great job of making it as streamlined
The
of a process
Secretary of State. Yeah, I'll put a plug for that.
as possible.
Well, even on Facebook, they'll usually have a little link.
Oh, yeah.
And then you can go to that and see where your place is you're supposed to go.
Yep.
Well, and then also you mentioned the Indiana Bar Foundation. I did a huge big summer conference with them this summer, which again is why I was like, oh, I love Chuck. I know him. He's great. But I love the Indiana Bar Foundation. I love the stuff they stand for and stuff they do. But even our the director of education for the Indiana Bar Foundation, like while we were at the conference, he had it pulled up. He had the website to go register and was like, as history teachers, you guys need to be the example. So he was like, make sure you're registered to vote if you're not, because we teach our kids about the Constitution, we tell our students about the Constitution, but then what kind of example are we if we're not doing it ourselves?
Oh yeah, yeah, and like y'all
That's
keep saying
wonderful.
it, they've made it easy. Like Josh helped somebody register to vote like a couple weeks ago, and it
takes
took like 5 minutes,
literally, yeah,
if that.
less than
And-
5
or
minutes.
anytime you go and get your license done at the BMV, they're gonna ask you, would you like to register to vote?
Oh, yeah, you can just do it right then.
I was like,
Yeah.
I made QR code stickers earlier this summer of the Indiana voter registration website
Yeah.
because I was
Yep.
like,
There's so many
stick 'em up
ways.
and go vote.
Like
Go
they
vote.
in Indiana, we're doing some good things.
The only thing that I would say about the BMV is that you can get an ID there as an illegal person, and
No, you can't.
okay,
Having worked there, no, you can't. Not unless your BMV has some bad people in it. My BMV did not let that happen.
okay, good to know.
It's a lot harder for immigrants to get identification than it is for citizens.
yes,
And it's
Way harder.
Yeah,
it's way harder.
Like months of time that they're waiting on things.
Sometimes years.
Sometimes
Sometimes years.
Absolutely.
In Indiana, anyway.
And
Yeah,
like I said, this is Indiana. My experience here in Indiana at the Indiana B&B. So
I was like, I want to go on a quick side tangent for this because
Go for
it's
it.
related. With the Indiana Bar Foundation, I actually got to attend last December. I got to attend a naturalization ceremony
oh, nice.
of
Amazing.
people coming in who were coming to be citizens of the U.S. And it was one of the coolest things. And we got to be a fly on the wall. We weren't involved in the main group. We were up above everybody. It was down at Union Station, downtown Indy. It's a really nice hotel. And there was a range of ages. There was a range of countries that people came from. And they identified every single country that they had somebody coming from. The oldest was 8, or the youngest was 18.
Mm-hmm.
So just getting to it. And the oldest, I think, was in her 70s or 80s. And it had taken her 30 plus years to pass the test to become the citizen. So you were saying like it's super hard. Yeah.
And
is.
I am
that naturalization test is no joke.
Yeah. I am proud of the fact that people still want to come to America.
Yes.
Like this is still a goal for people. Now we need to keep it that way and make it better for them and for the ones who are already here.
Yeah, the problem that we're having now is that it's the open border. It's not the legal way, and we're getting people in here that we don't want in here, and that don't. The only reason they want to be here is that their country is destroyed, and they're coming to destroy ours. They have no interest in benefiting our country or being a part of our country.
They're
they
being
want to
selfish,
change.
actually selfish.
They're being
There we
selfish.
go. There we go.
It
There
is
you
not
go.
helping anybody except themselves.
And there's a lot of
And
money
often at the
flowing.
expense of others.
That's right.
The cartels are making so much money off of this, and they're sending drugs over, and it is not a humanitarian thing what's going on at the border right now, letting people in. That is not humanitarian. It's terrible. It's
Yeah.
exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
And so that's why it needs to be closed, because that's why we have walls on our houses. We have borders on our country. You come in through the door and you do it the right way for the right reason.
Yeah. I've got a lot of feelings on that based on my experience at the B&B and the fact that it takes so long. The hoops they have to jump through it's too much, honestly.
That definitely needs to be
So
fixed, but it can't be fixed until you stop the bleeding.
Well, right. And it's hard. It's a hard situation when they are using other people, they're using children. They're using vulnerable,
We just spoke
elderly
about it. The
and,
human trafficking
Yeah.
like
is terrible.
to
it's a
legitimize
sin.
their being here or whatever. Like,
Yeah,
or
it's-
you have a heart. This is my child. Like, I have a heart and I want to help you, but I'm going to need to help you in your home.
I think also like what we talked about before the show started of the buy-in. They have to buy in to want that help as well.
That's true.
You know, I see this with my students all the time. I see this often of like, I have so many students who have different accommodations for their learning and stuff. I can do so much, and then their parents are still like, well, why is my kid getting an F? Because I've done as much as I could, but I'm not going to pick up the pencil for them, and I'm not going to write for them.
Yeah.
They still have to do at least some effort and some work. So it's that buy-in of they have to want that help. They have to want to get better. They have to want to take care of themselves to kind of tie everything in. Otherwise, you can extend, you can give as much as you want, but until that
You're
buy-in,
wasting your resources.
you're
and-
wasting your resources until that buy-in happens.
right.
Yeah. Well, this has been so much fun, and I think there's been some awesome discussion happening. And
so, too.
please comment your thoughts
Nice
on
to
these
see you all
issues and your experiences. We'd love to hear from you. Share this. I think there was again some important things discussed that other people need to hear. So please share. Thank you, Miss Kimberly Parkers, for bringing our message.
Appreciate it. Glad that I could be here again. If you liked what you heard, you liked the things I had to say, you want to know more of some of my views, my journey, my life, find me on battleKimoftheRepublic.com. You can also find me on Instagram. I think it's just at BattleKim, maybe BattleKim of the Republic. You'll find me. I'm not difficult to spot. The website's the easiest because that's just my name. So yeah, that's me.
All right. Thank you, Yvonne, Mom, for for coming. Kind of short notice there.
Thank you.
But it's been good to hear your perspective and being able to talk and join a conversation.
It's nice to chat with you ladies. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Miss Claire, thanks for coming back.
Yes, thank you.
I hope you enjoyed it as much as the first time.
Yes, I know. I'm going to have a whole another message now just about some stuff that this made me think of.
Yes.
But seriously, if you want to support any of the stuff that we've talked about, or specifically the Hope Center coming to Rushville, you can find me and I can help you with that. So I'm on Facebook, Claire Finley Reed. I'll probably share this video myself. I'm not on Rumble or anything.
One more plug. Sorry.
Yep, you're fine.
metcalfe-for-indiana.com.
Yep.
Don't forget to vote in Indiana.
Don't forget to vote.
Vote. If you live in Yvonne's district, vote Yvonne.
89, Marion County.
And then before we finish all the way out, will you give us a closing prayer?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead. Let's pray. God, I thank you so much for this opportunity to be here with these ladies. I thank you for the conversations that we had, the viewpoints that were shared and discussed. I thank you for the life that brought into this podcast, God, of even the stuff you laid on my heart or the stuff you laid on Sarah's heart, Yvonne's heart, or Claire's heart, God. I thank you that we were able to bring in that whole big group and have these discussions, have these conversations sitting here together. God, I pray that people's lives are touched and that your life, your plan, your glory for you, God. This isn't for us. This is not for our benefit, even as much as we want to plug, God. This is for you. And so I pray that you're with everybody who sees and listens to this podcast and sees what's going on, God, and just guide us in the way that you would have for us, God, and have your plan work its way out. Whether or not it's our plan is irrelevant, God, because, man, your plan's so much better than ours. But we love you. We are so thankful for this opportunity. We're so thankful to get to praise your name. And in Jesus' name, amen.
All right.
Amen.
I have been your guest host, Sarah Metcalfe-Allen. Can't wait to see you next time on Faith, Family, and Politics.
They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat.
We voting Donald Trump, baby. America needs saving.